Oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man! Wizards of the Coast has just shown off a brand new card that is absolute perfection. It features both Urza and Mishra and is centered on the Brothers' War. On top of that, they've announced that they're bringing back the Pro Tour in its essential original form. This is absolutely hype news. It's almost unbelievable. Wait a minute. No, this can't be real. I must be in a coma. Was I in a car crash?
Magic.
I am a wizard!
History.
I'm an old wizard!
The Magic Historian.
My bones hurt. Greetings! Owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends, I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered for some absolutely amazing news. Wizards is bringing back the Pro Tour, and we are getting some incredible promos at the same time. So let's start out by talking about what I'm most hyped on, and that is the Parallel Lives Brothers War card. Up on the screen, you're going to see it. Parallel Lives is a very solid card to start with, so this is exciting purely from a power perspective, right? 1 green and 3 gets you an enchantment that says if an effect would create 1 or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many of those tokens instead. So obviously, doubling down on your tokens is a great feeling. The fact that it happens to be a green card, really great for me. The fact that this happens to be in my commander deck, even better for me. The fact that it's tied into my favorite storyline in all of Magic's history made my jaw drop. I stared at the screen for about 10 minutes, getting misty-eyed looking at this. This is how exciting it is for me. In the artwork, you can see Mishra and Urza holding the might and the weak stones. Like, I'm going to give you a little summary in case you don't understand how this works, but essentially, these are the two brothers that are the center of Magic's best storyline. One of these brothers will lose their life. The other brother will ascend to such power that it will dwarf gods. He will be essentially one of the most powerful beings in the entire multiverse. And back in the day when planeswalkers were incredibly uber powerful, right? So you've got Urza and Mishra depicted there. Urza's the one on the right with the red stone. That is the might stone. It makes things more powerful. On the left, you have Mishra. He's holding the weak stone. It does the opposite. It makes things weaker, right? So essentially, those are both two halves of a larger power stone. It causes this massive struggle between the brothers where they both want to gain each other's power stones. When you look at the flavor text, it says neither Urza nor Mishra would admit it, but it was their similarities rather than their differences that caused their obsessive rivalry, drove their obsessive rivalry. And that's absolutely true. The two brothers were cut from the same cloth in a lot of ways, right? They had different personalities in terms of Mishra being more gregarious and more interactive with people, and Urza ultimately being more closed off. Now, Urza doesn't connect with people the same way because he's uncomfortable with people, not because he lacks humanity in any real way, right? So you have Mishra, man of the people. You have Urza, who's more man of the machine, but they are both talented artificers. They both are intelligent lads, but they both have a massive stubborn streak through them. They both believe that they know what's right, and they definitely do have a genuine rivalry where they feel the need to one-up each other and also kind of denigrate each other's accomplishments while sometimes celebrating them too. It's definitely a sibling rivalry style setup, right? It's not like they hate each other at the beginning. In fact, when the rift is caused between them, it's a very unfortunate circumstance that drives them apart. And ultimately, they still love each other to the point that, like, after all this ends and Urza's ascended to being a planeswalker, he's driven mad by all this, and he spends thousands of years trying to undo what has happened. So this is the storyline of what is the equivalent of a birth of a mad god, and then this mad god's crazy jaunt through the multiverse for thousands of years doing all kinds of epic things, right? And the artwork is so good. Urza and Mishra look great. Look at their faces. They look forlorn. You can see the essence of the gems flowing into them because you have to understand that these gems partially influenced the brothers and kind of fomented the discord between them. They both wanted to at one point kind of worked together, but the wedge got driven between them and they got further and further apart to the point where they both end up leading different nations, okay? They rise up through the ranks. They start as orphan boys who are unwanted by their parents, and they rise up through the ranks to lead different nations, and then they take those nations and throw them at each other in an epic scale confrontation that really underneath it all boils down to two brothers fighting over some toys. I mean, obviously these are very powerful magic items, but it's really underneath their nature and this interaction, right? And they take on apprentices, and then they ultimately end up devastating the entirety of Dominaria. Like, Argoth gets wiped out, an ice age gets ushered in. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is the equivalent of like a nuclear winter almost from what the brothers did, and really Urza's ultimate move. But by the time he had done that, the whole place had already been stripped bare. And you can see the barren nature of the land reflected behind both of them. The only sign of life that you can see is a single solitary tree with all of its branches stripped off. I love that they've mirrored the tree behind each of the brothers. You can see the land is barren because they've strip mined everything for resources. The sky is sooty and dark from their machines belching blackness out into the air. You know, it would make that one Dr. Seuss character weep deeply, right? So it's this kind of a scenario where they've just blasted it all, and also their friendship, right? It's just an amazing story. So on that note, just so you know, guys, the fourth installment of the Brothers War lore video, I'm doing the entire storyline of the Brothers War from start to finish. It's an epic story. It's over on Fantasy Geographic. The fourth installment premieres this evening, 7 o'clock. Eastern Standard Time. I will be there chatting in the comments during the premiere. Come on by and check it out. We are getting deep into the Urza's lore. Now, I will go ahead and leave a link at the end of the video to the full playlist. That way, if you want to watch the first 3 episodes, so you're up to date with us when we get to the 4th episode, you can. But either way, this card is so hyped that I've been yammering on about it forever. I love this. This is an absolute win. Now, let me show you the other promo card we have before we talk about the Pro Tour situation. This card is Stranglehold. So you can see this one is being done in the style of New Capenna. The artwork features Jetmir. Jetmir is the leader of the Cabaretti. The Cabaretti are the party boys of New Capenna, right? They're all about having a good time, and they've created something called the Font. Essentially, they're going to try and control the supply of Halo in the city. You can see the flavor text says, control the Halo, and you control the whole city. It's true. The entire city does basically run off of Halo. The artwork shows Jetmir here. He's in his big old party mode, big fat cat boy with his glass of Halo with a literal halo floating around it, which is, I guess, why it gets its name. It's crazy to think that everybody is just like drinking up this magical juice when it probably serves a much bigger and better purpose than just being used to party, right? So that's the other promo that we have to look at today. Now let us turn our minds and faces towards the Pro Tour and the return of it, because this signals a big shift, a fundamental shift at Wizards of the Coast, and it is absolutely glorious. We are returning to the older days of Pro Tours with, ideally, Magic Fests also incorporated on the side as well. So we're going to get the best of everything. You're going to have the Magic Fest style plus the more competitive Pro Tour style. And there was a number of things that I noted that I really liked. One is they've decided, at least to start with, to focus on the Pioneer format. And you may remember that when Pioneer was first announced, people were right into the idea. They went, you know what? Pioneer seems pretty solid. It's supposed to be the middle ground. Like, if you don't want to play standard and you don't want to play modern, but you do want a non-rotating format, Pioneer is the one that steps in to fill those boots. So when Wizards originally announced Pioneer, there was a bunch of hubbub about it. People got right into it, but then obviously with the way the world went and everything kind of getting shut down, in-store play, physical Magic took a real blow. So it's harder to get out there and play Pioneer, and Wizards wasn't really doing that much to support Pioneer. It wasn't as bad as the Brawl situation, but Pioneer was kind of by the wayside. This looks like Pioneer is going to become a bigger thing, and I'm actually suspecting that most likely what's going to happen is Pioneer is going to become the non-rotating format that you can play on Magic Arena, right? Because they did talk about that when they changed Historic to Alchemy, and Pioneer feels like a natural fit in there. I mean, theoretically, they could bring Modern onto Arena, but Pioneer would require programming in fewer sets. And we can actually see from their Pro Tour announcement that Arena is being deprioritized in a way. Wizards of the Coast has accepted the reality that Arena is not the way to greatness. Originally, like however many years back, they went ahead and they changed the Magic Play account into Magic Esports, right? And they put out an Arena video saying, they will know your name. And they took away the Pro Tour and they turned it into an Arena sort of thing where you had to be part of this selective group. It was really hard to get into. The rules about it were very unclear. So it was muddy and people weren't that excited about it. Even with Wizards locking people into big contracts, like we'll pay you 50 grand a year just to be a part of this organization, it still didn't give them anything for their money, right? Ultimately, the MPL and the Rivals League were mostly just failures, let's be real, right? So they look at it and go, okay, we're gonna get rid of that. Now, I didn't know they were just gonna go, now we're full on bringing the Pro Tour back, but they are. They're literally like, we're gonna do full scale, high level competitive events. We're gonna do it like we did. The system that they've created is far more easy to understand, right? Compared to the Arena stuff they were doing, it's clear. It might actually even be clearer than the original Pro Tour stuff was set out. I'm not sure about that, but either way, it is definitely easier to understand what's going on. And on top of that, the Magic Esports account has now changed to Magic Play. Okay, so when you look at it, you go, oh, okay, wait a minute, you're not pushing the esports as hard. That's fantastic. And when you go through all the different like people who can qualify for different style events, like, okay, we're gonna have the big world championships as part of the Pro Tour. And it's like, all right, so like who's gonna be included? And then there's all these different ways you can be a part of it. Most of it is paper Magic. But I noticed MTGO was in there as well. And I'm like, excellent, include MTGO. It is a digital to paper, pretty much 1-to-1, right? And then Arena's in there too, but it's basically like Arena details kind of to be announced. And I have to admit, seeing all of the paper details fleshed out, like Wizards didn't just come out and say, hey guys, we're going to bring back the Pro Tour and just leave it at that. They actually listened and learned. That's, I think, the most surprising part of this, is it genuinely feels like Wizards went and took a ton of feedback from the actual players and said, how do we take what they're saying, bring it on board, and make this new scenario where everybody is happy? Because when you look through it, they actually put time and thought into it. It isn't a hastily cobbled together sort of just deal with it, this is what we're doing, like it felt with the MPL and the Rivals, where the people, I don't know if you guys know this, but even the people in the MPL and the Rivals had a really hard time getting information from Wizards of the Coast on what was even going on. When things were going on, they would treat them as an afterthought. So the fact that this pro play stuff is going to be treated more seriously, they're literally going to do streaming coverage from start to finish. It's like we're going back in a time warp. I watched Magic Pro Play dwindle down to the point where they weren't even bothering to report on it anymore. They're like, maybe we'll send some texts or whatever. And it just kind of dwindled away. And while I'm not a hugely competitive Magic player, I understand it is a significant part of the Magic ecosystem. I don't mean the biggest part, right? Obviously, we saw during the pandemic that there's tons of different ways to enjoy Magic, and a lot of people just enjoy the countertop Magic. But at the same time, being able to have these big organized events, it does appeal to particular people. It gives you a path to the top. It's a place for everyone to get together and congregate. I've gone to a ton of these big competitive events, not to play in them, no, to hang out with Magic players, to trade, to play Cube, to have a good time. So for me, I'm just stoked to know there's going to be more hangout events going on. For somebody who had the dream of grinding up to the top, apparently that's back on the table. Wizards made it sound like before, going forwards, they would only flatten down the price structure and make it wide to get as many casual people as they can in the door. But that was when they were talking about Magic Fests. Now we're looking at Pro Tours over here, Magic Fests over here. So we've got super casual and then we've got hyper competitive. So everybody can have what they want. And I will go to all of them and hang out with all of you, my friends. Now, you may have noticed I'm pretty sweaty, and that's because because it took a number of takes to get that intro part done. I'm going to leave at least one humorous outtake at the end for you, unless somehow the footage is missing, so hopefully you enjoy that. Now, The Brothers Warlore is amazing. Come by and check it out tonight with me. You will not be disappointed. Also, over on Fantasy Geographic, there are 3 lore videos about Streets of New Capenna. So if you want something to check out while you're waiting for Urza tonight, then come on over and check out that lore. I will tell you the most glorious stories. Climb in your bed, pull your blanket up, stick a cookie in your mouth, take the cookie out of your mouth, no crumbs in the bed. It's story time, all right? Bye. Oh man, oh man, oh man! Wizards of the Coast is...